In the spring of 2023, the broker on this property, who is actually an heir to Joe Foss, they are developing this whole section, which was Joe Foss's homestead. And they reached out and they had a 15 acre parcel that we are developing on. They said, hey, we're going to send this out to a couple different developers to see who's interested in taking down this whole parcel.
It was January 25th, 1943, and fighter pilot Joe Foss from Marine Fighting Squadron 121 had just spotted a formation of over 100 Japanese bombers and Zeros approaching the island of Guadalcanal. With only 12 men under his command, Foss knew he was outgunned and outnumbered, but he had to do what he could with what he had at his disposal.
Hello, everyone. This is Umar Khan. I'm the founder of Boardwalk Wealth. I'm honored and privileged to have my two partners, Dustin and Caleb, with me today. We're going to tell you about Foss Fields Phase 1. So my background is in finance, investment banking, structured $3.7 billion of transactions. In that space, capital financing M&A, $765 million of transactions. In multifamily, we are an operator-heavy company, which means we put operations first. The bulk of what we do is provide value through real operations. We identify overlooked opportunities, and with the help of my partners, Dustin and Caleb, we capitalize on them for the benefit of our investors.
Caleb Veldhouse here, owner and operator of Veldco, a full-service real estate firm in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and a general contractor as well. I am a recovering attorney, actually, in a former life. So a lot of my time is spent working through the details of the development, the bank financing, the negotiation of the purchase agreements, and all of that from kind of start to handing the keys over to Omar is what we're running with here at Veldco.
And my name is Dustin Hendrickson. I am a design visionary and CEO, and I'm the guy that gets the project going from 0 to 1, and then I hand it off to Caleb. My passion lies in the design and solving the affordability crisis. I've been pushing the envelope on affordability and green building for almost 20 years.
Dustin, why don't you basically kind of chime in and tell us about, what are you doing with this project? I know you've been working on the affordable housing crisis and how to solve this for a long time. What's the game plan here? How do these construction costs compare? I mean, how do you have design efficiency?
Yeah, well, we're solving this affordable housing crisis through design and not through government. So these are not Section 8. These are not we don't take any federal grants or loans. And that allows us to be very flexible and nimble. And that allows Omar to do his job on the back end, however he sees fit, and make any adjustments he sees in the market. So we do not handcuff ourselves with some long contract with the government. We do this primarily through focusing on core amenities that drive the ROI the highest. And so these things are floor-to-ceiling windows, quartz countertops, Scandinavian design. This allows us to copy and paste, so we can take one building and instead of designing a building for the entire site, we can just place the buildings wherever we want per site. So we're not designing and developing brand new buildings. This makes it much easier for Caleb and his guys to complete the construction. It makes it easier for the subcontractors to just build the same model over and over. We do things like ADA on the main floor. All of our units on the main floor, ADA and adaptable, and therefore we don't need elevators. We found that elevators are extremely high maintenance. They slow down the building and they're not necessary. We're finding from our data, they are not necessary. People complain and give you bad reviews if the elevator doesn't work. If you don't have an elevator, they just understand there's no elevator, so it doesn't come into their mind. But yeah, anyone can live here because of the adaptability on the main floor, and then the top 2 floors are accessible.
And Dustin, can you tell us basically what is the thought there on the phased approach where we build and lease? Like, what was the thought and evolution there?
It's very hard to lease up an entire building that's either 50 units up to 150 units. When you lease the entire thing at once, It feels kind of eerie and like a ghost town when you first start leasing it up. There's no one living there, and it's hard to get the momentum going. What we've started doing is we build these smaller boutique buildings so we can build one, move on to the next one, so that each subcontractor constantly moves ahead, and therefore the subs are not on top of each other. And the farther ahead they get, the bottleneck just gets pushed back to the next sub. And so as the framer has multiple buildings ready, then the bottleneck now is onto the contractors, the subcontractors, the mechanical contractors. And so as they get pushed forward, then the bottleneck becomes on the drywall. But within 9 months, though, we will have one building ready to lease. And then we move the people in there. They occupy the first building in 9 months. Then every 1 to 2 months, another building comes online. This makes it much easier for the property managers. It makes it easier for the asset managers. And then it also gets income coming in. The bank feels better about the project as well. And we can start building up our reserves for any interest and taxes, insurance costs that arise during the project.
And Caleb, why don't you tell us a bit about the market and the sub-market? I mean, because that's really important, right? It's not just what you're building, it's the neighborhood you're building in.
I've lived here my entire life, except as a young child, and just experienced the continued growth year after year. And so this is in 57110. It's in the east side of Sioux Falls, where the new Highway 100 corridor has connected I-90 in the northeast part of town and is almost complete connecting I-29 in the southwest part of town. Lots of growth in this area over the last 7 to 10 years when they got a lift station to service this entire east side of the city. It's also in the Brandon School District, which is the best school district in the state of South Dakota by many metrics, but it still has that the livability of the city of Sioux Falls in the greater metropolitan area. So Sioux Falls experienced 2.7% growth last year, which is a little higher than normal, but not out of the ordinary. Unemployment remains incredibly sticky low at 1.5%, I think is the most reading, but under 2% for many years now. And just the foundation of the economy through healthcare, through banking, finance, agricultural, and the surrounding communities, and then you just have a lot of private businesses that are attracted to that as well because of the tax structure of the state of South Dakota. So it's been a great city to live in. It's been continually growing, and I don't see that stopping anytime in the near future.
Look, 2.7% population growth rate is bonkers because, people talk about places like Dallas, Austin, Tampa, Atlanta, name the Phoenix, right? And I don't think, even come close to the 2.7% population increase. So that just tells you there's this demand for quality housing. And we all know it's not like houses are becoming cheaper in anywhere in the country. So Caleb, I know there's a very interesting story here on how we got the deal.
I'm really excited to see this project come together because I've been working on this for over 2 years, or maybe not quite 2 years. But in the spring of 2023, the broker on this property, who is actually an heir to Joe Foss.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah. So they are developing this whole section, which was Joe Foss's homestead. And they reached out and they had a 15-acre parcel that we are developing on. They said, hey, we're going to send this out to a couple different developers to see who's interested in taking down this whole parcel. Now you got to remember, at that point in the spring of 23, there was nothing there besides the open field, basically in an agricultural setting still. So it didn't have streets, it didn't have sewer, water, any of that stuff. And so we put the project under, they liked our plan. One of the reasons they picked us to move forward on this parcel is they really liked what we've been building. Us three have been building and developing in Sioux Falls. And that's a testament to the design that Dustin's put together, as well as just the execution in and around the Sioux Falls area. So that was a huge selling point to them. But we put the property under contract in the summer of 23, and we had to work through a couple different things with them via hold fees and escrow of the streets and the sewer, but we had worked with these guys many, many times before, so there really wasn't a lot of worry there. It just takes time and effort to put it all together. So last June, we were actually able, through a group that we put together, us three on this call, to purchase the property in June of last year. And so in that and by property, I mean that 15-acre parcel. And so now we're doing phase one, which is the east section. There's 4 total phases of Foss Fields. This is phase one on the east side. And what's really cool about the property purchasers is they're putting the property into the project because they believe in the area. And so we've worked through all of that work over the last two years to have this Foss Fields phase one, its own separate plat, ready to go, and we're really excited to put product on the property.
I want to also highlight one thing. So you have a really good relationship with Tisdale, who is the broker, correct?
Yep.
And so because you've worked with him so much before in the past, you were able to negotiate that we come in as partners. So we had to put like $1 million hard money down, and we're basically partnering with the land developer. A lot of people don't really want to do that. And that was one of the negotiation tactics that really sealed the deal as well.
Yep, that's correct.
Hey guys, just to round this up over here, this section here, as you can see on the screen, the projected deliveries and multifamily permit data shows that there's a complete drop off in 2025. This should and is projected to result in positive rent growth in the coming years. Now, this is not, by the way, just a Sioux Falls related phenomena. We see this nationwide in various in just different magnitude in various cities. But the fact here is basically the couple of years where the Fed has raised interest rates dramatically, that is putting housing permits, housing starts, multifamily starts, they are grinding to a standstill. And now asset owners, which really for the last, primarily housing asset owners for the last 2 or 3 years, that were really just dicey, sideways to negative rent growth in most markets, now they are expected to be in a position where they will have more pricing power. We're already seeing this with acquisitions that the big boys like Blackstone, Carlyle, KKR, and Apollo are making. Just gives you an idea that the big boys are putting their scale and their money where their mouth is. And this is why the coming years are expected to be very positive for multifamily. Now, let's just go over this, just over the offer here. This is phase one. It's 100 units in 4 25-unit buildings. We have a construction and leasing schedule, which is going to be similar to basically what we've done earlier. Typically, we expect 8 to 10 months before first units hit. We've underwritten to a 9-month unit holding, 16 months for total construction. We've been averaging anywhere between 14 to 16 months for total construction. And what this allows us to do is basically, because we're delivering first units between 8 and 10 months, by the time we are getting to the finish of the project, right, month 16, we've already leased the bulk of the units. This is why under Caleb's leadership, Dustin's leadership, and our team's efforts, what's happening is between months 15 to 17 or maybe 18, we're hitting that 90 to 95% occupancy. And with typical 4-year loans, what this allows us to do is you quickly hit your stabilized occupancy. You got to offer some concessions, but now you have 2 or 3 turns of your rent roll to start really maturing out your income stream, especially considering that if you look out to 2027, 2028, rates are expected to be much lower. So that gives you some ammo, some things in your back pocket. What we've also done over here is we have 4 share classes here: silver, gold, platinum, and institutional for our institutional partners. The difference between these is primarily on the amounts of funds that are being invested. And then this has a difference on the preferred return and the return splits. The reason we do this is to make sure that we can accommodate all of our investors, because look, we've got institutional investors that give us over $1 million, but obviously if you're an individual, that's going to be harder for you to do. We want to make sure that we cater to as many investors as possible. Some of the projected returns you're going to be seeing on the screen right now, they range anywhere from 16.8% IRR all the way to 19.1% for the institutional class. Now, the reason why this is important is because you can understand the more money somebody invests, the higher the share class they can go, and they can get a better split of the profits. A couple other things that I want to point out here is that there is a special for our investors that come in earlier. Just to give, I mean, my team's been telling me to do this for a little while. I finally relented. So here's the deal. We have a special bonus for our investors for the first 1.79 million of capital. Whenever we get this money, the first 1.79 million, investors are going to be put up a share class. So if you were in gold, you will go up to platinum. If you're in platinum, you'll go up to institutional. Couple of more things as we wrap it up, as we head into the final sections. Caleb and Dustin, can you tell us, like, why are you really excited about this? Because, we invest our own money in this. What are some of the tangibles, intangibles?
I have a few things that I'd like to point on, specifically the projected population growth. There's 3 metrics of growth that are really good at Sioux Falls. It's the population growth, the income growth, and the rent growth. And those are the 3 main statistics if you want to talk about sustainable investing in real estate. If you look on the graph that we have in our packet, you'll see that the income growth is exponential for Sioux Falls compared to the rest of the nation. It's just going at a much higher clip. It's growing at a much higher clip. The population growth is also very similar at roughly 2.5% over the last 40 years. And the MSA breaking 300,000 now, it has been on a path to 500,000 for quite a while. And now we're seeing that happen in real time. All the infrastructure is in place for the MSA to be over 500,000 within the next couple decades. And so that growth is really, really good for when you're investing, because you always have new tenants coming in to fill up your buildings. Rent growth is 3.6%. Like Caleb said, unemployment at 1.5%. It's just really, really good signs for the overall economy and for the real estate market. The other thing that was really neat, I did some digging into housing starts overall, not just talking about multifamily, all housing permits that were issued in 2020, from 2022 to 2024, we're down 60%. From 2023 to 2024, we're down almost 20%. So the trend is still dropping off. And from what I've heard, 2025 is going to be will be even less permits pulled. So we're seeing it now. There was a report that just came out, and the multifamily reports was actually pretty good, but all of those were our units. So
awesome. And Caleb, what about you?
From a technical standpoint, we're changing the reserve plan just a little bit here, where we're stripping out some of the cost of our aluminum decks and pulling some of that money potentially into a more energy efficient skeleton of the building. And because we're going to talk about tax credits a little bit here, but we always apply for the 45L tax credit. Well, those energy standards have changed a little bit as of January 1 of 2025. So some of our older HVAC systems that we've put in the last couple of years may or may not apply for that new designation. So we're looking at some other options, and I think we've come up with some really cool stuff that allows not only us to capitalize on the $2,500 tax credit, but the $5,000 tax credit per unit, that is. And it also allows us to have a more energy efficient building. So those are the couple of the very technical things on the building side that we're working on. It's a little different for this particular project that we're really excited about.
Awesome. Yeah. And guys, these tax credits, these depreciation write-offs, these are really important. And while you can get a lot of the depreciation write-offs in typical projects, we have them as well. It's these tax credits, which can be used even by non-real estate professionals fully in the first year, offset against income. They are really, really, really powerful. Just rough math says that if you get a tax credit, but your marginal tax rate is, say, 37%, each tax credit is roughly about, the value of each tax credit to you is roughly about $2.7 for every $1 of depreciation write-offs. Ask our team. We'd be more than happy to tell you. And this is under Caleb and Dustin and the team's leadership that these things are happening and we are able to pass that on to our investors. So look, just tying up some loose ends as we get into the final stretch. The land, just to reiterate, is already purchased, zoned, and entitled. It is shovel ready, number one. Number two, the property management company that we use, we've worked with them extensively in the past. We have about 7 or 10 projects with them. So that gives you an idea that all the team, all the players are ready to go. We've already done this before on multiple other projects, Briarwood Reserve 1, Jefferson Reserve 1. We're doing this on Maple Rock, Aspen Ridge. So the team is seasoned and ready to go, especially on this business model. So if you're a first-time investor, reach out to schedule a call. We will take you over the offering memorandum, the pro forma, the PPM together, so you can understand each and every step. If you're a returning investor, you've got a full landing page in OM. Be sure to soft commit ASAP to secure a spot because it's first come, first serve. Shares are limited on this deal, guys. As I told you, we've already secured the land. It's shovel ready. We have a portion earmarked for institutional buyers, so individual investors are expected and encouraged to act now. Funds are needed to be received by the end of March at the latest. And depending on where and when you're watching this movie, if it's on our D landing page, you can scroll to the bottom, fill out a soft commit form, or follow the link in the description that will lead to the page with the form, or just email us. Very grateful, very excited to partner with you two great guys, Dustin and Caleb, and we're very excited to launch this project. Thank you, everyone.